Hey everyone, I'm Richard, the host of Anyreach Roundtable, and today we have David from AI Marketers Guild. We're super excited to have him here. David is a career expert in digital and all things AI with the intersection of marketing and technology. David, welcome to the show and thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Richard.
All right, awesome. Well, David, just as a quick background for our audience, can you maybe talk a little bit about what you do, your experience, and what kind of sparked your interest in looking at marketing with AI kind of initiatives, and what ultimately led you to found AI Marketers Guild?
Yeah, well, I've had a lot of great perches to go and nest on over the years, and with all these, I've just been able to see a lot of different parts of how marketing's evolving from the agency side, including being like an innovation person and kind of looking at what's next, dating back 20 years ago to going over to the tech side where I was working on a report over at a social listening firm, Sysomos. 10 years ago, I was leading a report on the hopes and fears for AI and marketing, and before most of us had any sense of what generative AI was, myself included. Along the way, been doing a lot of community building. I launched Serial Marketers 7 years ago, and a couple years ago with this rise of generative AI. I just didn't see any great place for marketers to connect with each other around how to make sense of where AI fits in with what they're doing and just learn from each other. And so I started in a new community, and it's just been a great forum and way for me to learn a lot, just from these thousands of members.
Got it, got it. Well, thanks for sharing your background. And yeah, to your point, I don't think there's a lot of communities around, marketers and tying kind of the AI topics. And so super cool that, you've kind of built that network and that community where marketers can come together and really kind of share their learnings, as well as, collaborate on how to, stay ahead of the AI trends, if you will.
Hmm.
And as you kind of think about AI, Gen AI in particular around voice, kind of becoming more of an essential part of the marketing stack. And what we've kind of seen is like chatbots, like customer engagement to sales and marketing initiatives. How do you see some of these new models, tools reshaping how companies, brands, and so forth communicate with their audience?
Well, I think it allows for way more personalization. I think that when looking at voice, it's important to look at not just inbound but outbound, and so where can voice add some more depth and interactivity? It's also fun, even just like there are a number of content generation tools that I've tried where they go and instead of having like a lot of text-based inputs, they're basically interviewing you, and then generating the text off of that. And I've seen this as like a mode more often than I'd expect, but when I've tried them as an end user, or I've like sourced, say, like interviews from the community that way, or others, and then it just winds up being really natural, right? Like what you can capture from a voice conversation in 5 minutes is often way richer and more candid and easier for a lot of the end users than what you could get than what someone might spend an hour sitting at the keyboard trying to type and get the wording just right.
Right, right. I mean, I think that's a really interesting, topic around like writer's block, right? We all get stuck on that. You don't have to be a marketer in particular, but obviously in marketing you do a lot of copywriting and so forth and writing up requirements. So, to be able to use a different human sensory, right, with your voice to kind of describe your story, your strategy, and so on and so forth to actually, generate a lot of kind of this marketing output is huge.
And And even as an interface in a lot of the major LLMs or AI engines, right?
Mhm.
So many people gravitate toward voice as part of that, and just like
Mhm.
having a conversation to go and troubleshoot things and get to an end result. And there's some great versions of that, like with if you ever play around with Pi.ai, for instance,
Mhm.
and there it's almost like a kind of coach you get to work with. And I find that the way I communicate with it via text versus voice is very different, and yeah, like voice has that. It just like humans are like we're designed to have a voice and we're designed to
Right.
listen to voices. Like writing isn't necessarily like what helped us evolve as humans. It's helped us evolve culture, but like I feel like we could be humans without writing. We couldn't be humans without voice and
Right.
that kind of language.
I mean, oral tradition. I mean that we've been doing that for thousands of years until recently with written word. I kind of have this joke with some of the other folks I've interviewed. When you think about the movie Iron Man, where like Tony Stark is like talking to Jarvis,
Yeah.
using his voice to get kind of engagement and move things forward. I think actually at some point we're also going to have vision as a modality, right? So what you're seeing and then manipulating things with your hands. So essentially a whole kind of user interface, if you will, and it's going to just be kind of ingrained across all disciplines, including marketing. So.
For sure.
And so, when we think about AI, one of the key challenges for businesses is how to make AI feel more human. How do you see, it doesn't have to be voice in particular, but just AI in general, being able to enhance rather than replace, that kind of personal customer interactions, especially around kind of marketing?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the best ways that a lot of businesses are using AI gets into personalization, and personalization requires data, and so the more data you have on history of interactions, especially if it's something more customer service oriented, or it could be data on if you know all of the kinds of things they viewed on your website or the ways that they've interacted with emails or the kinds of interests that you've been able to pick up on, then all of this can lead to just way more personal experiences and yes, like some of this is like if you want to avoid things where it's like they don't expect you to have any of this data and like why are you doing this, but if you're if you're a car company and someone's been on your site for a few minutes customizing a car and looking up test drives, like I don't think anyone would be that shocked to go into here. So like if they got a call from say an AI powered call with and the first interactions were so I saw you're more interested in the pickup trucks, but you were also looking at minivans. Like are you torn between which of the two, and like are you leaning one way or the other, and like this kind of thing. It probably wouldn't be that shocking if it's actually helping them solve a problem and taking an interest in meeting them where they are.
Yeah, 100%. And data is so key for AI to actually perform well and to do it in a strategic way where you're providing that personalization in a way that doesn't feel like you're kind of eavesdropping or Big Brother on folks.
Yeah.
I actually recently saw a campaign in the marketing side. So BarkBox, obviously they provide kind of different products and services for pet owners. And they actually had a campaign over the holidays, so like Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, where they asked their customers, hey, can you fill in this form about your pet, your dog or your cat, what's their name, their breed, and so on and so forth. And after the submission, they actually created a kind of epic sounding voice agent that would narrate their dog's journey through every one of the holidays. So it'd be like,
Wow.
oh, Amanda, your dog's Spot was going through the hollowed, horror haunted house of blah, blah, blah during Halloween. And Spot, found his bone and, he felt great, right? But, just in that campaign, it was like super immersive because, you're getting your pet's like epic story, if you will, around Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. And it really kind of resonated using kind of AI on top of, obviously kind of a more unique marketing approach. So
And you just got to think, like, for campaigns like that,
yeah,
who wouldn't share that, right? Like,
exactly. I mean, people love their pets, and it's like, oh, you can tell me something unique about my pet. Of course.
and I've got like I've got a couple of cats here, and I've got at least a couple of friends
Yeah.
who like are crazy about the cats, right? Like, so if I could send them at 3 a.m. like just a random pick the cat, like they'd be very happy if I did that.
Yeah.
And so something like this, like of course I'd want everyone in the world to go and hear
Right,
this.
right. And I don't know if you saw this. This is a recent trend where people were putting pictures of their pets in GPT-4o and saying, "Make my pet into a human."
Oh
And
yeah,
that's
I
actually
did
a
that. Yeah.
complete wrong way to do it because when they became humans, they looked so weird.
Oh, yeah, I tried a whole bunch.
But it was pretty funny actually watching some of these pictures. You see like, the before and after of like, a cute little orange Pomeranian became like, Carrot Top, for instance, right? And you're like, okay, that's interesting. So yeah, a lot of really interesting ways to apply AI around marketing, and we're seeing some pretty cool stuff happening in the space. Um, as you kind of think about automation, obviously being kind of a game changer for marketing. We saw this kind of in the first phase with SaaS, right? Marketing automation, email marketing, and obviously pulling in data, personalized, different kind of inbound, outbound messaging. As you think about kind of where the next step is for marketing and applying Gen AI, maybe around voice as well, and voice being kind of like real time. How do you see businesses using AI-driven kind of interactions to drive conversions and customer loyalty?
Well, a lot of this does get into this. Yeah, I mean, you talk about some kinds of media being immersive, right?
Mm.
And I also I got to give credit to my eighth grade math teacher, Mrs. Pat Kelly, who made
Mm.
us memorize what she wrote on the board the first day of class, and until we memorized, and she's at actually a Jewish school, but she was a former nun, and so you took her very, very seriously.
Yeah.
And she had this saying that she put on the blackboard, and it was, the more senses you bring into the learning process, the more
Mm.
lasting will be the learning.
Mm.
And I think about that all the time if I'm like discussing a book I read or something like that, right? Like when you take something from one medium and move it into another, then it just
Mm.
fires up all kinds of circuits that you have, right? And so you still might have your text campaign on one level. You still might have display ads here, right? Like
Mm.
it's not like you have to just go and do away with everything you have. But when you start, a big part of it, when we look at areas like voice and video, and then applying things to really new areas like avatars, for instance, that could
Mm.
either be based on, say, your sales team or CEO, or just a fictional character. Um, then, then all of this, it just starts opening up the canvas for what you could do. It's like, oh, we don't just need to do a text email. Like, we can try things now. Like we have all these phone numbers. We didn't have a good way to personalize voice to go with it. Let's see. Let's do a test on a small subset of our numbers, and if we have a million numbers in our database, like let's try 100 or 1,000 and do a personalized voice campaign and see,
Mm.
does this like help people? Do they get a little weirded out? Is it too unexpected? Like where does it fit? And you can test and learn so quickly now, and it
Yeah.
just, again, it just opens up the possibilities, and I think that's what's getting really exciting here.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up some great points. What do they say in like marketing? You need like 14 touch points or something like that before someone actually retains that information. And if you can add multiple different modalities for those touch points that are more immersive, it's more likely that they're going to recall, your campaign and things like that, right?
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
obviously, I'm a huge movie buff, so I'll use another kind of example here. But there's that movie with Tom Cruise, like Minority
Matter
Report.
report,
I don't
yeah.
know if you remember that scene where he's getting off the train, but
Oh
he's
yeah.
using someone else's eyes, right? And it's like everywhere he looks, the ads are actually personalized to him, right? As so when they're going through kind of digital billboards, if you will, it's like completely tailored. It's like Facebook on steroids, right?
Hmm.
That seems a little scary as a future, but I wouldn't be surprised if we start moving a little bit more toward that direction where ads, not just on your computer or your phone, but even where you interact on the physical space, actually starts getting tailored for you at the right time. And so,
And
you know,
and I've even worked with certain companies in the out-of-home space that were actually like starting to do that based more on
mm,
demographics, and so yeah, it's
yeah,
like here's the probability that your this is your gender, your age, like some other cues, like
right.
maybe how, yeah, just some like little hints of how you're dressed or not, if you want something a little more formal or casual, and then combining that with time of day, right? Like someone passing by at 3 might be picking their kid up at school, but at 5:30 might be coming home from work. Yeah. And so finding a lot of these signals even without the one-to-one personalization, but then yes, like as you start getting into just even more robust signals. I mean, I think it's also really funny with Spielberg that basically back to back he came out with the movies Minority Report and AI, and no one really remembers the movie AI, but everything about Minority Report is like, if it hasn't come true, there's some healthy debate as to whether it will. It's like a great handbook.
It's not an if, it's more of like a when, right?
Right.
Yeah. And Spielberg was way ahead of his time. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And you know what's kind of interesting on that topic about signals? We have this philosophy here at Anyreach where we want to become the company that's able to extract all the unspoken words that are living in people's minds. Obviously, you need a very kind of immersive, value-added experience because when we think about communication, it's really kind of a data processing problem, right? Like, so me talking to you right now, I'm processing stuff in my brain, it's coming out through my mouth, it goes into your ear, which gets processed again, right? And so we're essentially just transferring data in a sense, right? But during that transfer, what we're actually reasoning through in our minds and what we're talking about, there's actually a lot of unspoken things, right? And that's excuse my French, but a marketer's wet dream, right? If I can extract all that information outside of doing a direct implant into that individual, right? And really understand who they are, what they're thinking, why they said a certain thing, then obviously your marketing can be so much more targeted and profitable, right? Because you actually know the intent of a person rather than just essentially maybe their behaviors or what they're saying. So, that's one of our goals is to build such a immersive and exciting experience where folks want to talk to AI. And we're kind of seeing this early already where in our call recordings, folks are saying things they just normally wouldn't say to just random people because they built such a rapport with AI, it sounds so human and so forth, that they're actually disclosing, and I say this akin to like, you would tell your therapist more than you would tell a stranger on the street, right? But by building that kind of personalization, that empathy and so on and so forth, folks really just start talking a lot more. And a really funny example here was like, I don't know if you saw recently, Meta, they made a mistake on their AI where folks that were talking to the AI, their chats through voice was actually being publicly disclosed on Meta feeds that you could query. So it was like the funniest things when you like look through the chat history of what people are talking about with Meta's AI. You're like, holy crap, they're like giving all this like personal information, their medical history, they're giving like, their tax details. It was like, oh my goodness, right? But I think we're starting to see a trend where folks are actually, really kind of connecting more with AI, where they're actually giving out a lot more information than, obviously they normally would. So obviously Meta wasn't a good example of how to do AI right, but yeah, interesting case study nonetheless. So
yeah, I mean, I'm a little wary if marketers have access to my internal monologues, so might be committed somewhere. But so somebody said for waiting till some things are more explicitly shared, and I guess some of it is also like like in the Meta example, right? Like having some of that trust that like if for instance in conversations I've had with Pi, one of the things I found very useful is I'll refer to something like from a situation I was dealing with months ago, and I'll be like, what do you remember about that? And it'll tell me, I'm like, okay, great, because that is now the jumping off point for something that just happened to me now, and now you have the context, and so let's explore this further because if I just told you this one data point, it actually wouldn't be that interesting, but it's like, wow, this is a total turnaround from what it was like in February. So.
You actually bring up a really good point. Like, it's hard for our friends to recall what we talked about like months ago, right? Even for ourselves, we actually don't remember the things that we talked about or we were thinking about,
Oh
right?
my goodness, yeah. I mean, I was having drinks with someone this week, and I met them once a few weeks ago, and they had this like AI, like memory,
Mm.
and I was like, I don't remember telling you these things,
Right.
you know, and so, and I mean, they were salesperson, so I guess it was, yeah, they're very good at their job.
Right.
But and then like spitting some stuff back to me, I'm like, wow, like I'm just gonna be repeating myself left and right because I don't even have my own context here.
Right, right. And yeah, no, that's where really where, I think AI starts getting exciting with memory. And I think a lot of the, foundational models are starting to head toward there, like, GPT release memory capabilities. So now you can, every future prompt or any request or query is like taking the context of all the things you've said before. A little bit
Mhm.
scary, but also like kind of helpful, right? Because you
Right.
don't remember things, and having all that context actually helps shape, a better kind of experience with AI. So.
Hmm.
And so, there's plenty of like market maps, right? You just look up like marketing AI tools, and you'll see, these big, overwhelming charts of logos across all types of marketing kind of use
Oh yeah.
cases. And so obviously marketers are probably pretty overwhelmed, with all the, current AI tools and even the ones that are coming in the future. What's one big misconception about AI marketing that you think people are getting wrong?
Well, I think one of the biggest is that just if you've tried something in 2023 or 2024, like that
Mhm.
doesn't mean you're going to be dealing with the same problems right now. There's when I give talks about AI, I always close with a slide with a Yeti holding up a sign, but it says
Mhm.
yet, right? And that this is the most important word, and so. So it was work with an agency right now that's working on like how AI fits in with their processes, and they've got a big ask for what's on their wish list for what AI could do, like where it could really
Mhm.
solve some internal needs. And it's not going to be one of these like just use ChatGPT for it or just use some like Jasper or like some off the shelf
Right.
tool, right? Um, Maybe they'll be able to stitch some things together and actually get this thing done. Um, but if they explore everything and it like they can't find the thing that meets them, this should be an open RFP. They should be able to keep their ears out, be primed for it, come back
Mhm.
and like let's look at this again in 3 months because things are changing so fast. And once you know the kinds of things you're looking for and you know what your goals are, it's like that like there's someone that I first encountered a year and a half that I think might be able to solve their problems based on how they've evolved. And they've got this great tech platform designed for agencies that like I wasn't able to use. I never did anything with it, and now I'm like, I think there's a match, and we'll see, right? But so much is just possible right now, and just being clear on what the goals you have on your wish list can really help you get there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, whichever AI tool, as you kind of mentioned, like it all starts with like first principles, like what are your goals and what is the problem you're trying to solve? That doesn't really change. I
Right.
want to increase my revenue or I want to increase, or improve efficiencies of operations. And obviously you can go into more details around what that actually means, right? Especially for an agency. And the tools will change, right? The models will change.
Yeah.
And so
I
you're
mean,
not necessarily,
I keep this behind me. This is from agency I worked at starting in 2006,
yeah,
and an actual binder. And yeah, I mean there are tools in here like friend feed and like all kinds of like, weird things
nice.
that like we could geek out on.
Yeah.
But I mean I keep it around not just as a cool binder, but as this reminder that some things don't change. And the thing that
Mhm.
this binder did really well is reminding marketers like here's the goals, here are the take the
Mhm.
assets you have, the strategy, and it's just like I mean look like yes I wrote a book on AI like I basically didn't mention any tools,
Right,
um,
right.
it's just the strategy and what you can do with it. Like granted, there are a few more things you could do with it today than you could from when the book was published, um, but that doesn't change the fundamentals of what's in there, I hope.
Mm. Mm. No, that's great. I love the pen and paper that you have there, but really the word, like here's the framework, here's the systems thinking, here's the strategy, and whether the technology changes or not, like those principles still stay the same, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, super cool. And so as you kind of think about, obviously AI evolving pretty quickly, any kind of major trends that you're seeing in the future of AI-driven marketing in the next 3 to 5 years, and what should different businesses start preparing for in terms of those trends?
Well, there are a couple, and I'd say one's more immediate, and then one is coming all too fast, and we're talking about really more of like what the rest of this year and into next look like. Because 5 years from now, I hope we'll still be here talking about this stuff and not just working for some like Borg or something. The most immediate right now is the shift in and where search is going, right? Yeah, I mean, and there, it's funny. Like there were some reports like from Gartner that were saying like, okay, like 25% of searches are going to go away. Like it seemed like really alarmist, and it seemed like maybe they were actually being conservative. In the end, just the way people are searching is changing. The volume of zero-click searches, right? Like searches that just provide an answer and don't require a click, has changed tremendously, and that's inside Google and of course across ChatGPT and Claude and all these other kinds of things, that Perplexity that people are using. And so there's that bit of consumer behavior, but also there's the behavior of using actual AI more explicitly to go and get you what you want, right? Like in the car example we talked about, it's going and actually asking AI to do a lot of that research for you, if it's funny, I'm in Manhattan, so I'm like the least equipped person to talk about cars, but if I said to ChatGPT or Google Gemini, like, tell me what kind of car is best for me, it already knows about my daughter, it already knows about a lot of my situation, it probably knows how hard it is to park in my neighborhood, so maybe not some massive beast of a car to go and squeeze into a tight spot, and so like before I even actually do any research, it could probably come up with a short list that's like pretty damn close to what I want. And so all of this is rapidly changing this and trying to figure out how any marketer can get their content, their answers, their brand as part of this in a way that also doesn't just totally go and obviate the need to go to their sites and to begin with. This is all really big, and I think it's something that I think it's even to the extent that even if it doesn't like even if search as we know it doesn't totally disappear, and I don't think it will, just this idea like what if search went away right now, right? Like my old colleague Mark Avnet, who's now at the IAB, he likes to do these in a world exercises, right? Like so in a world where no one is searching, then okay, what's next? What are the implications? What do you do about it? And how do you get ahead? And if you think like that, then in a world where search still exists as a modality, but it's not the only game in town, like you'll be better prepared. And so that's the big one right now.
Yeah. And actually, to bring up a really good point, I was reading an article about how SEO, the trends of SEO is kind of changing into, I believe they called it LEO, which is like LLM engine.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been using GEO more for generative engine optimization.
I think that term is still being coined by different marketers, right?
Yeah, I'm hearing AEO and GEO because it's either AI engine optimization or answer engine optimization. I mean, it's yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to your point around that, the LLM Gen AI responses to a search query, or not even really a search query, it's a question query, right? So even the exploration of trying to figure out something for the end customer or consumer is different, right? You're not just choosing your own adventure based on some topic. It's like I have a very specific question, now spit back an answer for me, and that trend is actually growing like quite rapidly. I saw a graph with like GPT queries on these type of questions. Kind of obviously it's not as prevalent as search right now, but over time it's going to be one of the key areas where folks will start engaging to figure out where to get an answer, right? And a lot of these LMs are starting to bring in more rich media. So when you start searching for products or shopping, all of a sudden they can actually search the web and bring in like images of different products that you're interested in, right? So kind of like Google Shopping when you type in a topic and it pulls it in, but now it's in a chat modality versus like a field input, right?
Yeah.
And I was just talking to another guy named Alex, CEO Passport. I just did a podcast with him a couple days ago. But his company directly does kind of international shipping with like one click, so making it pretty seamless to help e-commerce businesses sell like to different countries. And we're still on the idea like, what does the future of shopping look like, right? Because the current state of affairs today, Shopify, for instance, you have every e-commerce store has the same kind of user experience, right? You look at a product, you add it to your cart, you go to your cart, you check it out, you go to the payments page, and yada yada, right? And the whole industry, at least for shopping and marketing, is like, how do you optimize that funnel, right? Where does drop-offs happen? What do we need to inject here, discount or whatever it is? But if the future is agentic at some point where every person has their own personalized AI agent that knows all the memory and the context of who you are, the products you like, and so on and so forth, you might just task your agent to say, hey, I have a vacation coming up in 2 weeks. I need to have a very colorful t-shirt for this wedding I'm going to or something like that, for instance, right? Go find the product, shoot me back 3 options, and you have my credit card and just go purchase it, right?
Yeah.
That would be a whole different user experience. It's a completely different funnel, right? Because you're talking to this thing, it's just bringing you back, and it's just buying it for you. So you're not going through an add to cart type of situation anymore. So to your point, like, what does that future look like? And then how would businesses be able to start thinking about, okay, how do we actually, build toward that and stay relevant? So super great points on that. And so David, just, kind of to end this incredible discussion, for those who want to dive a little bit deeper into AI and the marketing stack and strategy and so on and so forth, and especially around what you're doing with AI Marketers Guild, where's the best place for folks in our audience to follow you and your business?
Yeah, well, LinkedIn's always easy, so D Berkowitz there, and so happy to connect. Also, there's no charge to join AI Marketers Guild, so you go to aimarketersguild.com, fill out a quick form. I'm happy to go and let some of your audience in and just see how we can all learn from each other.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, just for the audience, we'll have all of David's links in our blog, in our podcast as well. So in case you can't find some of those details, it will be provided. But David, thanks again for joining Anyreach Roundtable. Really appreciate your insights, and it was great to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Richard. Enjoyed the conversation.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you.